Well, hello there and welcome to Mind Your Business. I'm Jennifer Anderson, host of the show. I'm also the executive director of the Georgina Chamber of Commerce. Very excited to be doing this show today. It is our 40th episode of Mind Your Business. We started actually a year ago tomorrow with the guest that we have on today, Simcoe MP Scot Davidson. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jennifer. Really happy to be here in Keswick live. In Keswick, we're doing this show a little bit different today, but that's okay. We're going to make it work.
You know what? It is very unconventional, but it seems fitting because I know for you the importance of small business in our community. And so it only makes sense that you are out and about talking to small businesses and doing that as part of the show today. So, you know, you were a small business owner before you were our MP. So obviously there's a little bit of love for local there. There's a little bit of love for community and also an understanding of what it's like to be a small business owner.
No, that's right. I was a small business owner before I got into politics. And, you know, it's really important for me to get boots on the ground and reach out to small business, especially in these trying times. You know, Jennifer, we know now that small businesses have really borne the brunt of the COVID-19 pandemic. And so right now for me, this is a constituent week. So I'm going to be in as many small businesses listening to what our small business owners have to say, because this is so important that I take their challenges, their views, everything else back to Ottawa so we can call on the government to make changes to some programs that are out there.
So what are you hearing from small businesses? Because I certainly know as a chamber, we get some of the same comments from small businesses. And one of the biggest is the uncertainty of everything. It's not knowing what the future holds and what the announcements will bring.
That's correct. I mean, it's the haves and the have-nots right now. If you go out and talk to small businesses, we have a lot of small businesses that were missed with funding and funding announcements, as well as small business people. They want to have confidence and certainty now. So we need a plan to move forward to open the economy. Obviously, the vaccines haven't come into Canada as quickly as we wanted. I checked this morning before we went live. We're 41st in the world. That's not a winning strategy. And, you know, we have to be pushing every day. There's things that the federal government hasn't done and could do to, you know, move us up in that chart. And that's what I'll be pushing for. And, you know, for our livelihood for these small business people, Jennifer, it breaks my heart, depend on this. You know, I'm at Alpida today. I came in for a world famous cappuccino. And, you know, all these small businesses we go in and see, these are the people that put the banners up at our fairs. You know, people come in and ask them for donations. So it's very important for me to get out, hear their views. And that's why, again, and thank you so much for taking the show live and to actually listen to small business, because that's obviously one of my jobs.
Right, right. And what we certainly know just by looking at statistics, 90%, 98% of businesses in Canada are small businesses. And that's certainly representative of Georgina. We have, you know, our makeup isn't manufacturers and large businesses, not many. We are the mums and pops, and we are the business owners that live and work in this community, and those are the people that you're talking to on a daily basis.
That's right. And, you know, Simcoe is full of small businesses like you just mentioned. This is our community. They represent our community. You know, to walk in and get a coffee here and say hi to Justin in the morning, right? These are all important things about community, and that's how our small towns are built on. So it's so important for me that we don't lose anyone through this pandemic, because again, you know, it's back to the haves and the have-nots and trying to circle the square now. You know, we need transparency of data from the government now. And, you know, we know after over a year of this, Jennifer, from when we first met, you know we have to protect the vulnerable in our population now. And that's why protecting the vulnerable is most important for small business, because we can get the economy open. And this is what the challenges are right now for small business.
Well, and I certainly understand too that, you know, having conversations with these business owners certainly lets them know that they're not alone, that you as their representative are taking the information. But Do you find that it's also helping? Because you're talking about people that are falling through the cracks of the system. So by identifying what those cracks are, is that helping to make amendments, to create other opportunities, to create future grants? Like, is that the purpose behind some of these conversations as well?
Yeah, I think the big thing behind this is letting small businesses know that my office is there and to reach out. And there has been, like you said, people that have fallen through the cracks. We've had small businesses that open, 2 months into this pandemic. So they've been open for 9 months. They didn't qualify for the wage subsidy. They didn't qualify for the $60,000 grant, right? So there's all these sorts of things that my office tries and helps with. They didn't qualify for the rate subsidy. And back to your point, even with the wage subsidy, a lot of these are mom and pop operations. They don't have employees, right? And that's why these lockdowns, and I'll just speak to quickly, the last one that happened in Simcoe County, small businesses there reached out. They were only open for 8 days. They had ordered, at restaurants, fresh wings and produce and everything else. And then, all of a sudden, boom, they're locked down again. And, all that inventory went to waste. And they're calling me, Scott, how are we going to get, money back on this? So there's a lot of challenges right now for small business. And the biggest thing is the uncertainty.
It certainly is difficult for you having a riding that are in two different areas as well, having York and having Simcoe, and for a long time York was the one that was in lockdown, and Simcoe was able to open some of its doors. And then, as you mentioned just a little while ago, there was that switch with Simcoe being in lockdown. So it's very hard to navigate for you, I'm sure, let alone everybody else who's in the community.
Yes, it was very challenging, that. And I think that's where people want the circle squared, where Walmart was allowed to sell everything. And we had, small business owners, for example, in Keswick, Angelo's, where you could go 800 yards up the road and go into Walmart and buy boots and track pants and everything else. And her business was shuttered. And then, you could walk across the road in Hall Landing. On one side of the road, you were fine. On the other side, you weren't. And we all know we have to take, public health guidelines. We know that we have to follow those directives. But I think what people are calling for now is transparency. We've seen this morning, with the latest vaccine, AstraZeneca, now they're stopping that on people under the age of 55. Where that a week ago that wasn't told, and then people over 65, you said you were fine. Now you can't. Now we just have that certain swath. So I think, people are really, they're tired, and they really feel they're lacking transparency now. NHL players are allowed to quarantine for 7 days. Right. Other people have to quarantine for 14. I get calls in my offices. They say, Scott, why is that? Right? They're trying to understand that. And we're calling on the government for metrics. If you've been vaccinated and I've been vaccinated, why do we have to self-isolate at a quarantine hotel for 3 days? How many millions of Canadians have to be vaccinated before we can start loosening restrictions? And, I'm mindful of the fact there's provincial and federal and everything else, but the federal government has to take a leadership role, Jennifer. Right. We had General Motors plants in Oshawa that are empty. I called right at the very beginning of the pandemic. Instead of being reactive, we have to be proactive. We could have started making vaccines in those plants, 10, 12 months ago. We borrowed hundreds of billions of dollars, and we could have put that money strategically into that. And right now, that's why I'm calling on the government. We know we have to take a sectoral approach right now.
Very good. All right, let's bring some of our other guests into the conversation. You're out and about. You are at Elpida Cafe and Roastery. And of course, if you're going to be there, we need to talk to Justin.
Of course. I just had a great conversation with Justin. Obviously got the world famous cappuccino, but Justin, come in and say hello.
Hi.
All right. Hi, Justin.
Hey, Jen, how are you?
Good. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today, and for being the place where the show is happening from. Really appreciate it. How's business going for you?
It's okay. It could be better, but it's tough trying to keep up with all the like restrictions and all the rules we have to follow and guidelines and bylaws and everything. It's a lot to do.
Yeah. So doors are open right now, which is a good thing. But with those doors being open come those restrictions that you're talking about. So you can see the plastic behind you. You can see, I'm sure there's numbers on the doors for the number of people that are allowed in. Those are the restrictions that you're referring to?
Yeah, just things like that. And then also, always like sanitizing everything, cleaning everything, using takeout cups only and takeout trays.
Checking ID.
Checking ID.
Yeah. Has that been your biggest challenge in the most recent weeks and months?
Yeah, so I don't have any seats or like dine-in available right now. Everything is just takeout. But when I do have the tables and chairs in, it is kind of difficult to get people's names and numbers and the city they live in, and then try to keep a log of that. It's a hassle on top of making drinks and then talking to customers and trying to get their information, and then some people refuse, and it's just frustrating.
And Jennifer, he missed a lot of the funding. Tell her.
Yeah. So we tried to apply for a few different grants and things like that. Mm-hmm. We don't have any employees, so we didn't qualify for the wage subsidy. We didn't have enough expenses to get another subsidy. So we didn't get anything from the government. But we did get some help through South Lake Community Futures, and they've been very beneficial. They're great to talk to. So I'm really, really happy that they are in the community and they're open and willing to answer people's questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And local too. It's that local connection and knowing that you can just give them a call and they're there to help. What, if you were to pinpoint, is there anything specific that you need? What is it that you need in order to be successful for this next year? This might be an obvious question. It might be people walking through the door, but what is it? What's on your wish list?
Yeah, I think just having people kind of get back to their normal everyday lives, of having people come in for a coffee before work, or coming in for a sandwich or a bagel on their lunch break, or things like that. With everyone staying at home and working from home and having Zoom calls and everything from home, people have gotten out of the habit of coming in for a coffee or coming in for a bagel or whatever. So it'll take a long time for people to kind of get back into the habit of stopping here on their way to work if they have an office to go back to.
Right. Absolutely. Thank you, Justin, for being a part of the conversation today. Want to ask Scott, is this the type of information, is this the frustration that you're hearing from a lot of local businesses?
Yeah, Jennifer, I think this is the frustration we're hearing from, I'll call it, a lot of sectoral small businesses. We know now that, let's say, hospitality, gyms, tourism, call it restaurants, those four sectors have, borne the brunt of this. And a lot of these are, like you said in the beginning, are really small businesses, mom and pop, in our downtown, in our downtown BIAs. And these are the ones that need the most help. We've had a number of companies, new businesses that have opened that have missed the funding, as I said. And, when people try and close a deal on a new business, it's their pride and joy. But a lot of people overextend themselves when they close. So they're the people that need the help most that they're not getting. So again, we'll be calling on federal programs to help them.
Very good. I'm putting in my request right now. I think that anybody who is a hairstylist, a barber, should become essential services.
Well, you know what? I agree with that. And the funny thing is I had to go and see one, and I went and saw Ralph the barber. I said, Ralph, do you want to come down the road and have a talk with Jennifer? So here we go. He told me I do need a haircut. I'm going to bring Ralph in. Come on, say hi, Ralph.
Okay.
Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, Ralph. Thank you so much for joining us. First of all, Scott was just talking about new businesses. You are not a new business in town. You are part of Georgina's business royalty. So I appreciate you being here.
Royalty? Well,
I
that's
think
too
so.
kind.
I
Too
think
kind.
so. Tell us about your business.
Well, I own Ralph's Classic Barbershop. I've been open 8 years now, Church in Woodvine. I've been blessed. I have been blessed for the last 8 years up until COVID hit, unfortunately, which shut my business down for close to 8 months. So
Yeah.
It was a very hard time in the last year, to be honest.
Ralph, take a step closer to the camera for me so I can hear you. Just want to know a little bit about what you've been going through. You just mentioned it's been a tough year. It's very difficult in your sector, in your industry, because of how many closures and how many different stages we've been through with this pandemic.
Well, a lot of it, I would have to say, was very difficult from the closure itself. The amount of money lost from the time people were shaving, for instance, in my industry, in my business as a barber, men would shave their heads so they wouldn't come in. And they were afraid to come in because of protocols. And I'm being extra careful on the cleaning and the distancing. I only have 2 people in my shop at a time. And it's very, very hard. And you get loans from the government, which is fine, but we have to pay it back. How do I do that when I'm shut down all the time or limited? I'm down 70% of my clientele at the moment.
Right.
So it's very difficult.
Now the key is, because I don't want to focus on the negative. I really want to talk about the positive and the reopening and the recovery. So what's needed in order for you to recover? Is it just the opportunity to be able to stay open and keep your doors open now?
That's key. That's key, is to stay open and to have people know it is okay to come in and get a haircut. It is sanitary, it's clean. And that goes for any industry in the hair industry. We are taking extra precautions in every way necessary. Cleaning in between clients, every 15 minutes in between, we have to sanitize everything. So we're doing everything possible to make it as safe as possible for every client to come in.
Yeah. Well, I love seeing your Facebook posts because, I'm seeing that there are people coming through your doors now, people getting haircuts, and are thrilled that you are open again.
Thank you.
On a very light note, how many haircuts have you had to fix now that people are coming back to you?
Scott is one of them. Like how I did that?
Yes.
And quite a few. It's been challenging and fun at the same time.
Yeah, I can imagine. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Scott, comments, because I know there's a lot of difficult sectors like Ralph's that, have had a really, really tough go over the last year.
Well, I think, and this is the thing, and it also alluded to it, and everyone's gracious and positive. I mean, small business owners, Jennifer, we always put on a positive face, and we want to be positive about the future, hence the reopening plan, and we could talk for a whole show on that. That said, someone, like Ralph, he had to borrow the money. He got the $20,000 grant, but he owes the $40,000 loan. So after over a year of this thing, he starts to worry about, Scott, is it enough now to carry him? And now I've got to pay that money back. And I went into a lot of small businesses where they've had expansion plans. They've had to put that on hold now. And, the last thing small businesses need is more debt, Jennifer. You know that. So that's why it becomes tough. And again, I'm not trying to be negative. We all know people had to be helped. But moving forward now, we've got to target the sectors, give those sectors more help, and get them back on their feet. And, I will always have small businesses backs when it comes to that. And, back to, we can't put businesses in a situation again, I don't feel, where the big box stores are allowed to sell everything. We had, like Ralph talked about, hand sanitizing and plexiglass, all the investments that small businesses have made to be safe. And they want to know what the data is. Where's the scientific data for example, for Ralph, that someone's getting COVID coming into a barber shop. The government hasn't presented that, and that's what, gets small businesses worked up. Where's the data that, for example, I can't go into Angelo's and buy a pair of shoes with 5 people, but yet we can go into Walmart with 300. And as a matter of fact, I ran into Roseanne, and she is here with us to say hi too. From
Perfect.
Angelo's, 54 years? 55.
55 years.
55 years. There you go. So I'll let one say hi to Jennifer.
Roseanne, come on in here.
Jennifer, how are you?
I'm excellent. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. I am thrilled. As you know, we had a conversation last week because I was able to walk through your doors, buy a sweater, but it was so nice. Thank you. It was so nice to be able to walk into your store and be able to talk to you. And you must feel the same, having those doors open now.
Yes, it's very comforting to have it open, but it's still sad because there's still that fear that is being instilled in people. And again, it's the same thing. We are allowed 5 people in our store where, which is fine. It seems to be working okay, but it will be nice when the doors can actually be open and people can actually enter without that fear. Retail is also a social thing. Like, we had a social visit when you came to my store, and I love that. I love people.
Yeah, it's going back to just that feeling of normalcy, right? Being able to walk into a store, and that's the greatest thing about our community, because when you walk in, the people that work there, that own it, they're your neighbors and your friends. And so it really is that feeling of being social as well. Has that been your biggest challenge, not being able to have your doors open, or is it the different, stages and the inconsistency?
It's the inconsistency. One day you're allowed this, one day you're not allowed this, one day you can open here, you could, one day it's just, there is no consistency. Everything is just up in the air, and it's okay for one business to do this and another business to do that, but there's nothing even across the board for anyone. Yeah. So it's frustrating.
And at being open for 55 years, your father and then you would have seen all kinds of things, all kinds of different situations. Yes. Never, ever would you have imagined that a pandemic would be one of them.
No, never. It's actually been kind of tolling on my dad, but he'll be fine. Yes. He's a trooper, if anybody knows him, he's a new trooper.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. The other thing I was going to say, I heard Scott talking about the loans and that, and it's very true. We did get the loans from the government, but the thing is now, if business doesn't actually pick up to come back to some normal level, how are we going to pay that loan back? That's right. I hear Ralph very much so speaking about that, and it's a serious thing if things don't come back to some kind of normalcy.
Right. What happens next? Is it just keeping those doors open and getting people in through those doors to be able to shop?
It's going to be advertising, letting people know that you're there. We're there when they want us there. Provide what they need, so that they know. And the biggest thing is just be there, and the advertising to let people know that we're still there, that this hasn't taken us out yet.
Very good. Well, I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you telling us a little bit about what's been going on. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Have a great day.
Yes, you as well.
Okay,
Scott, we have about 3 minutes left, so just want to talk. I mean, there is this theme with everybody that we've talked to, and I think we could have a million more businesses come in and stop by, and it would be the same thing. It's appreciating the help, frustrated by the different stages and the inconsistency that they feel, and hoping that there's either relief and grants in the future, or that the economy starts to flourish again so that they can keep their doors open. Am I correct in saying
correct.
that?
You're correct in that. And I mean, obviously, the positive thing is we have to get as many vaccines in arms as we can. That's job number one. And, I think as a conservative opposition, a member of parliament, we have to, one of our jobs is to hold the government to account. That's what you expect as a Canadian. And we have to call the government out again where we feel they're lacking. This isn't a dictatorship where they can run rickshaw and do whatever, they want. You expect an opposition, a strong opposition, to make the government the best it could be. And that's why we, throughout this, Jennifer, have pushed for small business. I've had small businesses back. And you know what? Come up with solutions. Be proactive. We want domestic capacity back in Canada. I think we've seen this with this pandemic, with the lack of PPE. And in the beginning, Canada truly just wasn't ready. And we see it now with the vaccines. We have to become number one. And that is the positive, okay? Yeah. Because we're going to get it done. We are going to get it done. And again, we're going to have small businesses back. I don't want to lose anyone, especially in any of our communities. We don't want to lose one small business.
Yeah. So you mentioned right off the top, this is constituency week. You are going to be traveling into different places like Elpida just to discuss all of these issues and concerns with small business owners. You're going to continue to do that this week?
Yeah, this is sort of small business week for me as an MP. I'm going to do all the downtown cores and go in and speak to all small businesses, what they're thinking, what they're feeling. And you know what? It's important to let people listen. And I will, I will always listen to small business and act on what they're telling me. It's the only way. It's one of my jobs as a member of Parliament, Jen. And I'm very honored to do it.
And as a small business owner, if they feel that there is frustration or concern, they can reach out to you as well.
Yes, and that's the big thing. If anyone thinks they're missed, maybe they'll qualify. I work with Joel Lipschitz, accounting, and he, sometimes there's little tweaks we can do to help people out. So make sure you reach out to my office, 905-898-1600. And we're happy to help. And you know what? That's my job, Jennifer.
Very good. 40 episodes. I appreciate you being on number 1 and on number 40. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you for adding to the conversation today and helping small businesses. I know businesses in our community really appreciate it. So thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer. It's all good. It's all good. And it's all uphill after 40, okay?
All uphill. All right. On behalf of everyone here at Rogers TV and the Georgina Chamber of Commerce, thanks so much for watching Mind Your Business today. And we'll see you on episode 41.
There you go. Thanks so much. Have a great day. Bye.